Thank you everyone for making the time to join us today for our Student Success webinar for new engineering graduate students. We are excited to share with you some key information about campus resources and tips to make your program a success. We have a lot to present over the next hour, but we will also be willing to answer questions at the end. These slides will be made available after the presentation is complete, so don't worry about copying everything down. My name is Rita Chikuski, and I'm the Manager of Graduate Operations in the Faculty of Engineering. I'm joined by some colleagues from around campus who will also be sharing this presentation with me. I would like to introduce Professor Siva Sivothaman. He is the Associate Dean, Graduate Studies and Postdoctoral Affairs for the Faculty of Engineering. Also Jennifer Collins, who is the Strategic Graduate Enrollment Manager for the Faculty of Engineering, and Amanda McKenzie, who will be joining us later on. She is the Director, Quality Assurance, Academic Programs, and Academic Integrity. Also, Emily Melcher will be supporting us behind the scenes, who will be answering some questions for us. If you have a question for us, please use the Q&A button on your screen to submit your questions. You can also upvote any questions your fellow students have asked, and that will help us to know what are the popular questions. We expect to have a lot of participants here today, and we'll answer as many questions as possible. If you have a question after the webinar, please reach out to your department coordinator or email us at egso@uwaterloo.ca. This webinar is being recorded, and the information shared is as current as of September 21st, 2022. With that, I'll start the presentation. As I mentioned, we have some presenters here today that will be joining us and have a pretty extensive agenda. So we're going to get started.
Hello, everyone. My name is Siva Sivothaman, the Associate Dean, Graduate Studies in the Faculty of Engineering. It's already third week into the term, but I want to welcome you to the University of Waterloo. And I also want to thank you for choosing our university and the Faculty of Engineering. So around 2,400 grad students are currently enrolled in the Faculty of Engineering. This represents about 40% of the entire graduate student population at Waterloo. Of these 2,400, nearly 700 are new students like yourselves who joined this term. So you see a link at the bottom of your screen, and this link takes you to the graduate studies portals of each of the 8 academic units in engineering. You can find the details and requirements of all your programs, whether it's course-based masters, research masters, or PhD programs. Let me now say a few words about how the graduate studies operate at Waterloo. Emily, could you move to the next screen? Oh, thank you. So this is the so-called hierarchy of graduate studies at Waterloo. So on the top, you have the GSPA, what we call the Graduate Studies and Postdoctoral Affairs at the university level. Then you have the 6 faculties, one of which is engineering. Within engineering, you have the 8 academic units, 6 academic departments, and 2 schools, the School of Architecture and the Conrad School of Business and Entrepreneurship. You might also have noticed that the Faculty of Engineering is engaged in an increased number of interdisciplinary collaborative programs. Some of you may have already been admitted to such programs as nanotechnology, quantum information, or water programs that involve multiple departments and also other faculties. There's also a growing number of co-op options being planned and introduced in our course-based programs. So on this note, I thank you again and welcome you again, and I pass this over to the next presenter. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Siva. Siva will be back later on to answer some questions during our question and answer period. So now we're going to start off with some program tips to help you get started in your program. For MEng and MMSC students, your associate chair is your academic advisor. ECE is the exception to this, where you have a separate faculty member who is designated as your advisor. You can also contact your designated advisor, your associate chair, or your grad coordinator for issues that come up during your program. On the screen here, you will see the list of MEng and MMSC contacts for each department. I strongly urge you to reach out to these people if you have any questions about your program. For research-based students, your supervisor is your academic advisor. The supervisor will act as your advisor for most of your questions during your program. You can also rely on other students and postdocs in your lab for insights. Departmental staff and your associate chair can also be called upon if you have any questions. Never hesitate to reach out to anyone if you have any questions. If you're looking for a course selection advice, the first thing you should know is that you can expect to take fewer courses each term than you did in your undergraduate career. We find that most students will be more successful if they take 2 to 3 courses each term because the load is much heavier at the graduate level. You should ask the course instructors or your supervisor if you are unsure about whether you have the right academic background for their course. You can register for courses in all 3 academic terms. Our terms are 4 months long, and they begin in September, January, and May. The course drop deadline is an important date to keep in mind. It is always 3 weeks into the term, and for fall, the drop deadline is September 27th, which is next week. After September 27th, if you drop a course in Quest, you will receive a WD on your transcript. After the course drop deadline ends in the 11th week of the term, you will no longer be able to drop a course in Quest. So if you have any questions about any of your courses, about dropping it or just about the load, or if you're not sure if you should be taking it, please ask your advisor. Students ask, how can I become a teaching assistant? Students will be invited to register and register for Expectations by the department coordinator. Expectations is a training workshop that is required for anyone who wants to serve as a teaching assistant in the Faculty of Engineering. The next training workshop will be held in October. Some of you may have already received an invitation from your department. The completion of the expectation workshop is required for anyone wishing to serve as a TA, as I said. Students must have a Canadian bank account and a SIN number in order to be a teaching assistant, even if you're working remotely. If you're not sure what a SIN is, please reach out to your department coordinator or to other grad students to find out what this means. Not all departments have positions, so specifically for MEng and MMASC students. If you're not sure, please ask your coordinator. Your pay as a teaching assistant is a taxable income and is in addition to any GRS funding research students receive. In the Faculty of Engineering, this is pretty unique. TAs are always over and above the funding that you've been promised from your department. Contact your departmental staff with any TA questions. So who do you ask when you have questions about different things throughout the term? So if you're looking for career advice, the best place to start is either with your associate chair, your MEng advisor, or your research supervisor. They're the best person to assist you, as they will have seen a lot of students come and go, and they will have understanding what the research paths, specializations that can lead to certain career paths. If you want to drop a course, change your program, or change your enrollment status, or apply for a new program, you should start by reaching out to the department coordinators and also check out the GSPA forms website. The GSPA forms website lists all the possible paperwork that you might need over the course of your time here as a graduate student. This website, GSPA website, lists also a list of the important dates which you should be aware of, and you should also be checking back to this website to make sure that the dates that you thought about are consistent with what your plan of action is for your program. If you have any issues or concerns about your course, you should talk first to the instructor, your academic advisor, and then if you feel that there's a need, then you should reach out to the associate chair. If you're looking to apply for a job, or if you want to network, the best place to start is the Center for Career Action. All students are encouraged to use resources which the center has available here on campus. If you want to become a teaching assistant, you're going to want to reach out to your departmental TA coordinators. In some departments, This may not be the graduate coordinator, but rather an undergraduate coordinator. I would ask the grad coordinator, and if they are not the person that deals with TAs, they will direct you to the appropriate person. Regarding UHIP, sorry, this is mainly for international students. Talk to your graduate coordinator to find out the correct person that you need to speak to about a UHIP plan or healthcare plan. There is a website here that refers specifically to the UHIP plan that's through the University of Waterloo. And then the second link is the website to UHIP itself. So if you're feeling sad, homesick, or if you're finding your courses are too challenging, you should really reach out to someone. We've provided you a list of people. You can talk to your academic advisor, your department coordinator, counseling services, health services, or your own personal doctor if you're able to talk to them. No matter what, you should always talk to someone. Please don't wait to the last minute to try to deal with the situation, but deal with it as soon as you possibly can. If you want to know about specific program requirements, it's best to look at the Graduate Studies academic calendar, and there's a link provided here. Here you will find the guidelines that govern your graduate program, and that way you will know whether you're taking the right courses, completing the correct milestones, and when you do your program, sorry, I've just drawn a blank. When you do your program report, you know then whether you've met your milestones or not. And then make sure to check your requirements sooner rather than later. If you need accommodations for a course because you've been hurt, you have an illness or a disability, you should contact Accessibility Services. Accessibility Services is an excellent resource for students that have learning disabilities or physical disabilities that might need a little bit more assistance, either with doing their coursework or even their research. It's important that you reach out to them right away and not wait until just prior to a final exam or when you have a research project that is due. If this is something that you feel that you would need or benefit from, reach out to them today. So we thought we would provide you with some advice from a current grad student. So I'd like to introduce you to Ben Ecclestone. He graduated from the University of Guelph with the BEng in 2020. He started his MASC here in the systems design, and then he was transferred to the PhD program. He is currently a PhD candidate in systems design engineering, doing research with Dr. Parson Haji Reza. He is studying photoacoustic remote sensing microscopy, and he didn't tell me what that's about. So if you would like to know more, I would suggest you contact Ben. Ben's advice to grad students is, don't be afraid to ask questions. And he basically says, don't be afraid to ask questions whenever, like either during a lecture, office hours, like anytime. Basically, he says, reach out to people. And this is just a motto I've always used with grad students is, it doesn't hurt to ask questions. It's better to ask the question than to wait until it's too late. The other suggestion is get involved with the community. Engineering, as he says, is a team sport. So I think as soon as you start to connect with your peers, you'll probably feel more connected to your department and to the engineering faculty. If you need help or support, just ask. He says there's resources for everything on campus. There's counseling, writing, resumes, housing, and you will find out about this as we progress with the workshop. But there are many resources on campus available to students. And his final piece of advice, which is very important, is take the time for relaxing, socializing, and sleeping. If you try to do too much, you will find then you probably will not be able to dedicate as much time to your program. So please take care of yourself at the same time. So for the next part of this, presentation, I'm going to pass it over to Jennifer, who will be talking about health and wellness. Jennifer?
Thanks, Rita. I'm Jennifer Collins, and I work in the Engineering Graduate Studies office with Rita. I'm really happy to be here today to talk to all our incoming students and give you some more resources and information about the sports available for you throughout your graduate program. Just to repeat what Rita said earlier, we will be sharing the slides today and all the links, so don't worry about copying everything down. We'll make sure that you have access to all the links and information shared in the slides that I'm presenting and everyone's presenting today. So the first piece I want to talk about is accessibility services. Rita just mentioned them in the table she was talking about. Oops, my lights went off. There we go. Good timing. So accessibility services is there really to help students who have any type of need or support that's needed by the university, whether it's learning disability, a physical impairment, a mental health issue, you might need more time for an assignment, you might need a quiet room to write an exam, you might need an accommodation for the physical space you're working in. It could be something that is an ongoing concern you have, chronic illness, or it could be something if you broke your arm or were in an accident, unfortunately, you want to work with accessibility services, and then they connect with your faculty member, your research supervisor, your course instructor, your department, et cetera, to develop a plan that really helps support you through whatever you have going on that might be impacted with that, be it a comprehensive exam, defense, writing your thesis, coursework, TAing, any part of your graduate program. So they're a really wonderful service. It's largely confidential, so the specific details of your condition won't be shared with anyone outside of their group. They will just advise the department and your faculty member of what type of accommodations are needed to support you for success. So definitely check out their website and keep it in mind whether you have an issue that may cause concern in the future. You might want to reach out today if you already know of something, or if something comes up throughout your program, keep them in mind to reach out to as soon as you know that there may be an issue. As Rita said, it can be very challenging for students to try to write exams if you have a need or impairment that you need support with, and to get that support all worked out before your exam period, we recommend that students talk to accessibility as soon as the term begins, and then that will set you up for your whole program or the duration of your illness or condition. So next, I'm going to talk about the Office of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Anti-Racism. Obviously, anti-racism is a huge concern for the University of Waterloo, and we want to make decisions and support students from all backgrounds, as well as faculty members and staff and every member of our community to feel that they're being treated equitably and that we're supporting the diversity and inclusion of all members of our community. So in the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion and Anti-Racism, here are the different ways that they approach change at the university level. They review existing policies and strategic plans and work with the higher level leadership at the university to lead systemic change. They provide education and outreach for all of the units on campus, and then also offer individual support for students who may come from a racialized background or want to be an ally to people within that community. So there's lots of opportunities for you to learn more about this group or to receive services or benefits from working with this office. So I think on the next slide, we have some examples of when you would connect with this office. And we really support you and recommend that you do reach out to them if you need individual support. If you have any ideas or suggestions where there's gaps on campus, we're all learning and trying to do the best we can. And as we know better, we will do better for all members of our community. But we really support and encourage you to reach out if you see that there's an issue that you would like addressed. And again, if you'd like to be an ally or learn more, there's different trainings that are offered there as well, looking at anti-racism issues, decentering whiteness, and then supports for members of the 2S LGBTQ plus community. So if there's more information, there's links here that we'll share with you. So if you would like to give them feedback or participate in any of these trainings, please reach out to them. And then I wanted to touch briefly on counseling services. Ben mentioned this in his comments from the student that Rita just shared. We want to support students. It's very common for graduate students to encounter periods where they feel sad or homesick or stressed out or feel like they have too much on their plate. And we just want to reinforce that it's Very common that that happens. You are not alone. And we do have supports available for you. There are opportunities to connect with counseling services on campus. And there's actually engineering specific counselors. So they work only with engineering students. So they really have a unique perspective to share with students who may need some help. And you can click on the links here to set up an appointment and connect with them and get the supports that you may need. So we're here for you. You can talk to other people that Rita mentioned before within your department, but it may be that counseling services is the right place for you to reach out for that support. And we really encourage you to do so. I wanted to just reinforce that counseling services is confidential. So what you speak to a counselor about will never be shared with the department or your research supervisor or a course instructor. It's only between you and the counselor. So you should feel free to reach out to them. There'll be no negative impact on your schoolwork or your research progress if you do talk to the therapists and counselors with counseling services. It's really just there to support you and not to create any more issues or stress you out anymore. It's private and confidential, and it can really help support your navigation of issues in your academic and personal life. And now I'm going to talk about campus life. So this is how to get involved with different groups on campus and know what's happening on campus, be part of this community. We're happily mostly in person for all of our activities at this point, returning from the pandemic schedule where so many things moved online. So the first thing is to get the UW portal. This is an app that we have. If you don't already have it, please download it today. And that gives you tons of information about events and registrations from different groups, clubs, social activities, faculty-wide opportunities. There's a Tutor Connect part of it, campus map, a place to find open classrooms if you want to study outside of your lab or student space. There's classrooms available there, and a lot of other information and resources for you. This is for graduate and undergraduate students, and we really recommend that you download that and have it a part of your graduate student toolkit while you're a student here. There's the Waterloo Warriors. That's our athletic team. We have a lot of varsity sports and recreational facilities for you to participate in your own health and well-being, your physical health. So you have a membership as part of your student fees. You can drop in and participate in structured activities like aquatics, dance classes, fitness classes. Intramurals are really popular, martial arts. There's personal training, rock climbing, and that's new. The rock climbing space is new in the last couple of years. And also just gym space. So if you want to do your own routine, lift weights, do cardio work, etc., you're welcome to do that with the Waterloo Warriors in our athletics department. So there's a lot of opportunities there. It's a great employer on campus as well if you're looking for a job. All students can have jobs with athletics there. So there's a link at the bottom here to look for jobs. And we really recommend that you get involved if you're interested in physical activity and want to connect with other students. So there's a Warriors newsletter you can sign up for. There's an app for the Warriors as well, and also follow them on social media. And that's probably the best place to know what's going on there. They have a full list of programs on their website. The next group is the Graduate Student Association. So this is a group completely run and managed primarily by graduate students. They are an elected body of students who represent the interests of graduate students. They work to advocate for graduate student issues to higher level leadership. So there's a formal group of students there, but any student can get involved. They run activities, they run social events. They talk to the provost and the associate vice president of graduate studies. So if you have an issue or a concern or a great idea that you want to share and make sure higher level leadership hears about it, this is the group that you want to connect with. And you can see the breakdown at the bottom there of all their membership. The Graduate Student Association, like I said, has political representation on and off campus. So they talk to members of the community as well as higher level leadership at UW. They're responsible for the transit pass. They can offer legal aid, academic support, student advising, manage the health and dental plan. And then there's the graduate house, which is a physical house actually on campus that you can go to, that is sort of a pub, and you can have food and connect with other students there. And there's also lots of events and activities happening there throughout the year. So check out their website to see, and that is with all other graduate students on campus. There's about 4,000 graduate students on campus, so it's a big group and a great way for you to meet other people. And I just wanted to touch on the GLOW Center. So the GLOW is the oldest continually running university-based 2S LGBTQ+ group in Canada. This is just a representation of how much we want to welcome people with all gender identities and sexual orientations on campus. Waterloo is a welcoming community, and students of all backgrounds and gender presentation, sexual orientation, etc., all welcome and accepted here at Waterloo. If you're part of this community, feel free to reach out to the GLOW Center and connect with them about the activities that they have, trainings that are available, and ways to connect with other students a part of that community. And allies are welcome to reach out to them as well and be part of their events and activities. Next, we're going to talk about academic and career resources. So these are resources to help you throughout your program, and then also when you're in your job search, either during your program or when you're nearing completion. So the first one is GradVenture. GradVenture basically compiles all of the trainings and activities that are available on campus. We know it can be very confusing for new students, especially if you're new to the University of Waterloo, to know all the different groups that are offering workshops, trainings, and programs. So GradVenture lists them all together, so you can go to one place and find all of the academic professional skills workshops that are available for graduate students. So we have the website there, and you can see there's 150 workshops and events there per year. So definitely check that out to help develop your professional skills during your graduate program. One of the options that's run by the Graduate Studies and Postdoctoral Affairs Office to help you build those professional skills is the Professional Skills Foundations program. And they will help you build skills in career preparation, communication, leadership, and personal effectiveness. This is very impactful for students. Students love going through this program. You can achieve it during 1 year, or you can take it in a lengthier time if you're here for a longer program. And then you get a certificate of completing that program. It's a very popular program, and students get a lot of value out of it, and really helps you get job ready for when you are in your professional life after your graduate program or programs are complete. The Student Success Office has a great academic support for you, which is peer success coaching. So they match you with someone who's more experienced and further along in their program than you are. This is a great resource for students who are new to University of Waterloo, or just want to get some advice from a student who's been through it. It could be advice about coursework or research or campus life, and just connecting to the Waterloo community. You can work with the Student Success Office by booking an appointment through the link there and connecting with another student who's been there and really has great advice to share with you. So encourage you to reach out for that support. The Center for Career Action, Rita mentioned earlier, they have a lot of resources available for students during your graduate program and also when you're graduating to help you get a job during your program, or to really prepare you to move to industry or government, or trying to move on to academic positions later if you're graduating from a PhD program. Lots of options available, one-on-one appointments, drop-ins, tons of workshops, support with your resume and CV, job strategies. You can do a practice interview with them if you have a big interview coming up and want to work out how you're going to respond to that and be in the interview. It's a really great resource. It's a wonderful program with a lot of staff there to support graduate students. So we really suggest that you reach out to them and make sure you're aware of what offerings they have available. GradVenture that I mentioned earlier will include and communicate all of these resources that the Center for Career Action has available for you to develop professional skills, but definitely check out their website as well. And you can use the Waterloo Works website to register for events and workshops, employer information sessions. There's also job postings, and those could be short-term, part-time postings that you might want to do during your graduate program if you'd like some part-time work. And then there could also be job postings for major industry, academic, government positions that are available there. So you want to keep an eye out for that job board if you're interested in looking for work. And they have asynchronous workshops as well. So you don't necessarily have to meet with them at a particular time and date. You can just click and play some of the workshops that they have on offer. And the last group I'm going to talk about is the Reading Communication Center. This is a great support for students who are multilingual speakers who don't have English as their first language, but is a great resource for all students to help you write your thesis. They help with scholarship applications, working through coursework, refining your writing style, making sure that you are effective in clearly communicating what you'd like to say, and it helps you develop skills and strategy that help you in your working world. I am an arts grad and I work with all engineers, and I can tell you that art students definitely get more support throughout their programs, I think, to develop these skills. So as an engineering student, you may want to look through some of their courses and workshops and offerings and maybe get some one-on-one help just to give you some more input into how to make really effective reports, coursework, materials, and really communicate as best as you can with your coworkers, peers, professors, and awards committees if you're applying for scholarships. So this last slide, we have the Writing Communication Center. We're talking about graduate student services. There's a lot of different opportunities here. You can rock your thesis, learn how to plan and write your thesis if you're in a research program, and that's for master's or PhD. Dissertation Bootcamp, which is a really amazing resource for PhD students specifically to work with other students on campus and get an idea about how to make really the most effective dissertation. You can go to a session to speak like a scholar, which really helps you at academic conferences. And if you're moving on into an academic career afterwards, writing cafes, and there's a virtual writing community on Teams there. So check out the resources they have. We have the website included here and some options. They on their website, they have one-on-one appointments, online writing communication resources, and grad-specific online resources. And that is all I have to share today about graduate student resources. And I'll pass it back to Rita, and we'll continue on the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was really helpful. Thank you very much. So I would like to turn our presentation over to Amanda McKenzie, who will speak about academic integrity. So we're just going to go forward a few slides just to get, here's it. So now we'll talk about academic integrity with Amanda McKenzie. Thank you, Amanda.
That's great. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate being here and having the chance to just unpack and talk about academic integrity with you. This is just one of the posters that we use on campus just to promote acting with integrity. And of course, we believe that integrity is key to your success as a student. Next slide. So let's talk about what defines academic integrity. I know many of you will have different understandings of academic integrity depending on where you've done your previous education. So that's why we're going to spend some time today just really talking about the details of it. So what the expectations are at the University of Waterloo. So there are basically 6 values that the University of Waterloo endorses as what constitutes academic integrity. And these are from the International Center of Academic Integrity. And they are honesty, trust, fairness, responsibility, respect, and courage. And we find that those values that are very basic values that I think probably most of you have an idea what they mean and how you operationalize them, they guide what we do with our actions. So they feed into all the parts of things that we do in our personal life, in our work life, and maybe our volunteer life and anything else that we do. So integrity is really foundational. And we just want to take just a few minutes to just focus on what integrity might mean to you. So on the next slide, you'll see that there are, this is why does integrity matter? There's a couple quotes on here from Warren Buffett, so you can just bring those on up. And I think it's important, hopefully everyone knows who Warren Buffett is. He's a quite famous and very wealthy and influential US financial investor. And he has a couple good quotes that I like to use for integrity, because he really does say, you know, in the long run, and that's what we're all kind of talking about, right? So you're here at school, but in the long run, you're going to be transitioning into a career. And his quotes here are about when you're in that career mode, if you have people that don't have integrity, it can really work against you. So he recognizes how important it is. And also with your reputation. If you don't have integrity, it can take a really long time to build reputation and trust. And if you don't maintain that, you can ruin that really quickly, which can have a very long-term impact on your career. So just two things from Warren Buffett to kind of think about as you consider what integrity is. Next slide. So this is where I want to take just a minute. I know you've probably been talked to a lot. You maybe haven't been able to go back and forth with some of the speakers. And I'm going to encourage you to take a minute or two to read through the values on this list. And I'd like you to put in the chat what 3 values are important to you and mean the most. So just take a couple minutes, read through, and pop in the chat there what 3 ones are most important to you. And I'm going to do this as well. And I encourage anyone else on the call, like Jen or Rita or Siva or anyone else, to add your own values. It'd be kind of fun. We often just don't take the time to think about what's really important to us. And it is good to reflect on what is most meaningful. So I'll just give you another 30 seconds if you want to pop something into the Q&A just to let us know what your top 3 values are. Oh, yes, thank you. One person did it. Yay. Thank you so much. Courage, integrity, and persistence. Excellent. Persistence. That's an interesting one. It kind of reminds me of determination. That's great. Okay. Well, I hope that you've taken a few minutes just to reflect. Oh, and Siva, thank you. Siva's written in the chat, accountability, integrity, and professionalism. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Siva. Okay, next slide, please. So the reason why, you'll just have to click through to get the next text up. The reason why we talk about what those values mean to us is because I want you to think through, now that you've kind of identified the top things, do you actually follow through with those? Do they actually guide your behavior and your actions? For example, if honesty was one of your values, but yet you're not always completely honest with the things that you do, you have to question why that might be. And maybe you might want to focus on trying to live better in alignment where you are being more honest than not. And also considering all the dimensions of your life. So sometimes we might act a little bit differently in our school life, academic life, compared to our work life, compared to our private life. And why might that be? So for example, again, with the honesty one, you wouldn't just want to be honest at home, but dishonest at your work or your school. So again, thinking through with the values that you've selected, how are you actually living those values? I encourage you to ponder that and to think through to see how you can make those match in all realms of your life. Next slide, please. I really like this quote from Brene Brown. It kind of encapsulates the main things that we want to encourage you about integrity, right? Integrity is choosing courage over comfort. Sometimes we have to be brave. And it's choosing what is right over what is fun, fast, or easy. And choosing to practice our values rather than simply professing them. So that kind of goes back to what I was just saying about living in alignment. So we might say that we value honesty, but if we really are reflective with our behavior, are we actually being honest in all realms of our life? So I encourage you to think about that. And I also encourage you to practice your values loud and proud. Next slide, please. Okay, you probably just have to press another one. There we go. So getting to know the rules here. Again, this is the reason why we're going to talk about academic integrity, is because Most institutions have their own policies about what's expected. And we also know different schools have different rules, different cultures, different educational systems, can all vary a little bit. So we want to make sure that everyone has a baseline understanding of what the expectations are here at the University of Waterloo. So there is a link in this to a video about Policy 71 that you can check out at your own time. It just unpacks a little bit about what is in Policy 71. Unfortunately, the title of Policy 71 is not great. It's called Student Discipline. Now, as a new student, why would you want to read a student discipline problem? You probably never anticipated that you're ever going to have an issue in this area, right? So as we revise policy, hopefully in the future, we'll fix or select a better, more reflective name. However, the importance of this policy is that it does set out the expectations. It does mention the values that we expect all students and faculty and staff and other members of campus to follow. Those are those 6 values that I mentioned earlier. And also Policy 71 lists what the academic offenses are. So you can quite clearly see what's allowed and what's not allowed. It also goes step by step through the disciplinary process. So if you ever are accused or in a situation of academic misconduct, you can have a clear path as to how things unfold and the next steps in the process. It will also describe the potential penalties that are associated with some of the offenses. Obviously, the more severe the offense, the more severe the penalty. And I will say, as graduate students, the penalties are quite strict. There is an expectation that graduate students will have a better understanding of academic integrity because you're building on what you should already know and have learned as an undergraduate student. But also, there is kind of less room for error at this level. So you do want to make sure that you carefully pay attention to the academic integrity rules and expectations that your supervisors put out, that your instructors explain, and that you are acting with as a teaching assistant if you're working in a teaching assistant role. Also, a key thing to know is that if you see something that is suspected academic misconduct, there are 2 things that you are required to do as a student. You are required to report it to the instructor and to the associate dean, who would be Siva in this case. So make sure that if you do see something, even if you're not quite sure, it's always important to let someone who has more experience and background in this area decide. So please pass that information on to both your instructor and Siva, the Associate Dean, Graduate Studies. Next slide. So just a little bit about why it's important to report things. So number 1, it helps us monitor how we're doing in our educational programs and allows us to see what's going on. What are the trends in offenses? Are there things that we need to adjust to either provide more support for students or make more awareness campaign about a certain topic to try to inform them to make better choices? Also, Policy 71, it's important to report the conduct because we found in the research that if students in higher education don't have their academic offenses corrected at this point, they are very likely to continue and commit similar offenses or things that are dishonest in their career life. And as you can imagine, that has huge impacts, not only for every academic program, but particularly in the engineering field. I know that you've probably all heard the example of the bridge failing and blaming the engineer. Yes, it's a very old example, but it is so relevant and important that we keep these things in mind, because you might think that, oh, you know, the stuff that I do in school is not going to have an effect on my career. However, if you don't have the proper skills and credentials and education and knowledge that you're supposed to be building at university, or you aren't corrected for some of the, perhaps misconduct that you have, there is a high likelihood that you're going to make mistakes in your career path. And that's just not a great way to set yourself up for success. So we just want to make sure that we try to support students. We don't focus heavily on penalizing. We really do focus on educational support and to try to correct the behavior and to put students on the right path. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to unpack a few different rules or offenses now, so you have a better understanding about what's allowed and what's not allowed. So this big word, unauthorized collaboration, which essentially means working together with other people when you're not supposed to. So what does this look like? This might be students completing assignment together when the instructor told them it was supposed to be done independently. It can also result in or be friends or tutors or editors completing or redoing assignments for students. Those things are all considered too much help. You really are supposed to be doing the bulk of your work on your own, unless it's a group project and you have specific instructions from your instructor or supervisor. So there's just a couple examples there. We do know that students do like to get together to talk about assignments, and it's okay to talk things out as long as you can walk away and complete the assignment on your own and not copy or use other people to complete your work. Okay, next slide. So to avoid this, some of the things that we encourage you to do is number one, be clear about the rules, right? Find out what's allowed for the assignments. And also, if you're a teaching assistant and you need to, you should relay this information to your students as well. It should be quite clear to them where to draw the line as far as if they can do this as a group or if they have to do it on their own. So we need to be really clear about that and relay the students, the instructor's expectations as well. Encouraging students to come if they have a question or assistance. Sometimes people are a bit shy or ashamed of asking for help. And obviously throughout these number of presentations and slides that you've seen today, there are so many ways that the university is here to try to help you. And we hope that you will reach out and utilize these because we want to see you succeed just as much as you want to succeed. So encouraging students to reach out to get the assistance they need is important. And also remembering to report any suspected misconduct so we can kind of catch that and correct it. Next slide. Plagiarism. So this one, you might, is probably the most familiar one that people know about. And it's using someone else's work. So sometimes if for example, you cut and paste something into your work and you didn't say where you got it from, whether it be an image or a graph or a textual paragraph, if you don't say where you got it from, that is called plagiarism because you do not own and we're not the creator of that content. So it's really important that you make sure that any work that you include, you say where you got it from. So we do know that sometimes citations are not really emphasized in different parts of the world or have been kind of less rigid than what we would expect in a North American higher educational system. So I will say this can be quite different. So make sure if you are using information from, is it someone else's data? Is it someone else's code? Someone else's image, graph, whatever it might be, photo, make sure that you credit where you got that information in your work. Also to note that resubmitting work without permission is also considered plagiarism. And especially at a graduate level, you wouldn't probably want to do that, right? At this point in your career or your academic career anyway, you're really focused on originality. So make sure that you're not resubmitting things. And then there's just a couple examples there of what plagiarism looks like. Next slide. And this is a little bit more about why a student might plagiarize. We know that everyone has pressures or they might not be aware that they need to cite. So again, we are just making sure that you're quite clear that your instructor will let you know. And best practice is to always cite, better safe than sorry when you're doing these things. One thing that I also want to mention is self-plagiarism. A lot of graduate students are unaware that if you reuse your work that has been published or marked before, particularly published, you should cite that you're quoting yourself. So even though it's yours and you might be writing along the same topic, if you're using things and information that you've already published, you need to cite yourself in there. So that's a big one, is that sometimes people don't realize because they already wrote it, why do I need to cite my own work? Well, it's again, just really making sure that you're clear and sharing where the information came from. That is part of the citation practice at the University of Waterloo. Okay, next slide. Let's talk about cheating. Most students do not come into university to cheat. There is a very, very small percentage of people that use cheating to get ahead, particularly when they are stressed or they feel they have no other option. So cheating is basically trying to gain an unfair advantage in an academic situation. So that might be sneaking a cell phone into an exam. That might be using a resource when you're not supposed to be using any resources. It might be looking at old test banks that are not or weren't supposed to be shared for different answers and things, and using those solutions. So there's a number of things that I'm sure you can think of in your mind what cheating would look like. I hope that you never get into that situation. And again, we would encourage you, and you can go to the next slide, because this talks about how to mitigate that, is to, again, reach out for resources, right? We encourage you, again, to tap into all the different people out there who are willing to support you. So your instructor or your supervisor will be the first point of contact. They're there to help you succeed and will help you with finding resources, or perhaps they might be able to be flexible or accommodate things. Make sure you're giving yourself plenty of time. This is one of the things that we're aware of is, again, organizational practices are important. Time management is important. The better you set yourself up for success, the less likely you're going to feel any of these pressures to perhaps cheat. Next slide. Okay, this is an important one, talking about copyright and intellectual property. So this kind of ties into the plagiarism piece too, is that if you didn't create any work, or whether it be an image or a code or a document, if you didn't create that, you shouldn't be reusing it without either asking the person or citing them with a citation about where you got the material from. So the way this is a little bit different in this slide that I want to point out is that students will receive a lot of information from their instructors and their supervisors. And when they receive it, they're not fully aware that they shouldn't be sharing it. So in this day of age where everything's online and we don't think twice about sharing or borrowing something from someone else, in an academic setting, there are more standards and guidelines and rules about what you can share with or without permission. So when you get different things from your instructor or supervisor, you should keep those confidential. You can share with your classmates because they're in the same class as you. That's appropriate. But when it comes to sharing things on websites or other, sharing these with a private tutoring company that might turn around and use them for profit, those things aren't allowed. So if you do feel that you want to share things that your instructor or supervisor has given you, make sure you go and approach them and get written or verbal permission. This is really, really important. Again, we tend to forget when we receive things, who owns the property. And your instructor does own their course notes, and things like the course syllabus and tests and exams are owned by the university, and you are not allowed to share those without written permission. So just be aware of those. You do pay to be here. You are paying for the privilege of this information. And if you do share it, you are giving it away for free. So we don't want to be in that situation. And we also want to respect the original creator or author of those works. Next page, please. So this is, again, just how to avoid it, right? Be explicit. Hopefully your instructor and supervisor is explicit. If it's unclear if you can share their material, ask them. Also, if you're a teaching assistant or you're talking to students, make sure that you're aware what's allowed or not allowed and share that with students. So It's really important. If they're not allowed to share, tell them that they can't post this online or share with people outside of their class. It just makes it a lot easier for them, and it makes them resist the temptation. If you do find things that are posted online that shouldn't be out there, there are certain third-party groups such as Chegg, Course Hero, OneNote. If you find intellectual property that's out there that shouldn't be, please report it to the instructor. The instructor can also contact the Office of Academic Integrity or Legal Services, and we can help them go through the process of taking that material down. Because again, it is their intellectual property, and those people have not given permission for that to be posted on a website. Next slide. Okay, some final points just to remember. And these are things that, you know, overall that I hope you keep in mind for your time here at Waterloo, is just remembering academic integrity, and remember those 6 values that we talked about at the beginning, as well as the values that are important to you and how you can live those in your academic life, work life, personal life. Being aware of the academic expectations for each course that you're in or each project that you're working on is going to be very important, so there are no misunderstandings and it's clear. Please report any suspected misconduct. We've already talked about, you know, the implications that could follow into a student's career if we don't help them at this point and give them some guidance. Also, your instructor, your supervisor, again, we are all here, including your instructor and supervisor, to support you. So we want you to succeed and do the best that you can. So please, if you feel that you are not, you know, feeling overwhelmed or you need some resources, definitely reach out and ask for help. And if you're in a position to talk about academic integrity with students, with fellow students who you might be, you know, in charge of as a TA, or your classmates or other folks, just even talking about academic integrity and why it's important and what's acceptable and what is not acceptable, clearly just unpacking that and having a conversation, that is the most important way to reduce academic misconduct. So if your classmates, your students that you're responsible for, if they have a clear understanding that academic integrity is important to you, and why it's important to you and what they can do to uphold it, it is the best way to influence them to not engage in academic misconduct. So I really encourage you just to talk about it and be open. And that is really the end. This is just a point to our Office of Academic Integrity website. We have a ton of resources on here, and they're broken down into a couple sections. So there's a student section, and there's an instructors and a teaching assistant section, and you can see all the subheadings there. So we talk about, you know, referencing, stress and time management, certain forms that you can use, group work. We have also some promotional things if you are an instructor or TA, or you want to try to share some information about academic integrity. There are posters and videos and other things that you can share with people to promote that. So I hope you'll make use of the site. I hope that you'll reach out to all the resources that you heard from today, because again, we really do, the whole title of this presentation is student success, and that's our ultimate goal. And those are just our contact information. So thank you very much. I guess I'll hold in case anyone has a quick question, and then I will turn my camera off.
Thank you so much, Amanda. We're very fortunate that you're able to be here today and to share this excellent information for our students. So now we're going to begin our question and answer period. Just a reminder that for the question and answer session, we have a lot of participants, so we may not be able to get to all your questions. If you have any questions after the webinar, remember to please reach out to your departmental grad coordinator, or you can email us at egso@uwaterloo.ca. The webinar is being recorded, so we will share it with you in the upcoming days. Just to note that we're not study permit experts, so unfortunately we will not be able to answer any questions about immigration study permits or postgraduate work permit questions. So we're going to start with some questions. The first one is actually going to be for Amanda. Some departments have exam banks. Is looking at these considered cheating?
No. The reason why it's not considered cheating is because it's hosted by your department. As long as the information in the exam bank is held by someone who is officially connected with the university, whether that be a student society or a department program, then those would have been exams and material that was permitted to be shared. So that's completely legitimate. However, I would warn you from using other private sources that are not connected to the university. That would be not a valid source of information. Thanks.
Thank you, Amanda. This next question will be for Siva. What advice do you have for students when choosing courses?
Sorry. Okay, good question. That also depends on what program you're in, whether you're in a course-based program or in a research program. If you are in a research-based program, I would strongly advise, to follow what your preference in terms of what area you want to specialize, and also consult with your supervisor. Because I always treat the research work, this is a teamwork between yourself and the supervisor. So always make it a point you consult with your supervisor, and also make sure some programs might have requirements about core courses. So you also need to meet the program requirements within a limited time. On the other hand, if you are in a course-based program, you really have to see what your interests are, and also whether you will be able to handle the course. Does your background preparation is sufficient? Because the terms are relatively short. You only have 36 lecture hours per course, right? So interest could be one thing, but whether you will be able to succeed in it. Do you have the right preparation, right? So you should also make sure that you have one way to look at it, go through the course requirements and see what are the prerequisites, and also contact the course instructor and tell what your background preparations are, just to have an idea whether you will be successful in that or not, right? Otherwise, you can also consider, if you take one other course, that would be prepare yourself to take a particular course in a future term, right? So these are the considerations you should look at before taking a course. Okay.
Thank you, Siva. And the next one actually is going to be for you also. So how can we learn about companies that are related to our field of study if we would like to work part-time while completing our studies?
Again, yes, if you are on I assume you are following a course-based program, then you have to, during your program, you have to, search, and, that's one of the ways, which way you are preparing, which way you are trying to specialize, which field you are specializing, and best way is to search. But there are also some resources. Some of our course-based programs, we have, co-op options. There you can, reach out to the contact person to get some information. And there are also internships, right? Like MyTax internship, you can follow that path to get some information about the companies of industry. But I would, suggest that you better search. It's not that difficult to look for companies. And even if you are in a course-based programs, you can reach out to faculty members who do research in your area, and they might be a good source of information for which companies are specializing or related to this research area. So do not shy away from reaching out to faculty members, even if you are in a course-based program. The faculty members are here to help. Okay.
Thank you, Siva. This question will be for Jen. As a new student, what should I do now to do well with the new environment, so we have a smooth transition as a student?
That is a great question. I would say, number one, take a deep breath. We know that it's very overwhelming for students when they're first beginning programs, especially if they're new to the city or the country or the school. So I would just recommend that all students appreciate that they're not alone in the situation, and that almost all new students feel very overwhelmed with their first probably 6 weeks or 8 weeks in their programs, and know that all the staff and faculty here to support you. The reason we're here today to connect with you, like Amanda said, is to support your student success. And so I would recommend, number one, meet your graduate coordinator in your department if you weren't able to participate in orientation activities with them. Go and meet with them in person or set up a Teams meeting with them so you get to know them as your support person. And then I would maybe think about what you'd like to do in your personal time and how you can do that at Waterloo. So is it finding a club that's interested in the same board game you are? Is it joining an intramural team? Is it finding a part-time job? What interests and activities are important to you or something you'd like to learn more about? There's a club or resource on campus for basically any interest. So, be bold and reach out. Know that all students are new at some point, and I think across the board, grad or undergrad, are welcoming to new students. So I would just try to make some connections in a social way within your department or with an interest group on campus, and just getting to know campus a bit better, or connecting virtually if you're not yet on campus or you're in an online program. So that's what I would recommend.
Thank you, Jen. This question will be for Siva. What is the thesis development process?
Okay, thesis development process starts, I would say, right from the start of the term. Some students think that, in the first 2 or 3 terms, they will be focusing on completing their coursework, then think about the thesis. But I would strongly advise against that. Start consulting with your supervisor right from day one, and start doing some planning, explore some topics. Only after exploring you might make some decisions about the feasibility of the topic, right? So start early enough, and also you can look at literature. That will also later on help you to complete the literature review. So the simple answer is start early enough and do it in consultation with your supervisor. That's what they are here for. They are here to guide you in your research, right? Again, you must consider this research as a teamwork between yourself and the supervisor.
Thank you. So this is a question I'll answer. It's regarding deferral policy in case of a visa delay. I'm not sure how many students are online right now that have not been able to register because of a visa delay. You should be contacting your grad coordinator or your department right away if you have intentions to defer. You should be contacting them as soon as possible, because we need to know, the department needs to know, and also the faculty needs to know if you plan on deferring. Your department is the best place to reach out to them, to indicate to them whether you plan on deferring, what are your options for deferring, if it is because of a visa delay. They're the best people to be able to answer your questions and to do the process for you, so that your offer is still valid for whenever you do plan on coming as a student, whether it be in the winter term or next fall. And the other question is it possible for us to transfer from faculty to faculty? I'm assuming that what they mean by this is that you want to transfer programs. The easy answer is it's possible, but it depends on what your program is. So if your intent is to transfer from one faculty to another, you have to understand that just like you were admitted to the Faculty of Engineering and to your specific department with certain requirements, that would also apply to whatever faculty you plan on transferring to. So you need to understand that whatever requirements that you met to be admitted to the Faculty of Engineering may not apply to the faculty you want to transfer to. So you need to look at the options, speak to the grad coordinator in the department that you're hoping to transfer to, or you have interest in transferring to, and see what the requirements are. So it's not that it's an easy yes, it's not also a no, but you have to look at all the options, and if it's possible, yes, it can be done, but you have to make sure that you do all your homework before pursuing that option. Siva and Jen, did you want to add anything to that? No?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, thank you. So this Siva or Jen can answer this one. Do you have any advice on cooperative education and using the Career Hub?
Okay, the cooperative education. So I think your question is about co-op-based programs. So if you're officially in a co-op graduate program, then yes, the co-op office is there to help, and you will anyway be registered with them. You'll be dealing with them, right? But if you are not on a co-op program, what they can do to help you would be, I would say, highly limited, right? But I would also add, maybe that might change a little bit in the future. We are also looking at a business development officer in the graduate studies office in Faculty of Engineering. That person would be able to further guide you towards placements and internships and so on, right? But short answer is, if you are already in a co-op program, then you must go register with the co-op office and get the help.
I would just add the Center for Career Action for students who are in co-op or not. If you're looking for career advice during your program or later, as I mentioned in my part of the presentation, there's a lot of workshops and resources available for students there. So I think they're a great unit to connect with to learn more about how to look for jobs and find something that works for you. And that's whether or not you're in a co-op program. I think there's opportunities there for that type of support with experts who are really prepared to advise you successfully on that topic.
Thank you. So another question is, when can we expect to hear back regarding TA applications? So first year students, the expectation is that you would not be a TA in your first term, because you would need to complete the expectations program. So like I mentioned, you should be hearing shortly from your department coordinator about the program that you need to enroll in. And my understanding is that the registration should be coming out within the next week or so, and then the program will roll out sometime in the week of October 17th. And it's a 2-week program that all students who want to be a TA need to complete the program, and then you would be eligible to be a TA sometime in the winter term. So a question for Jen: how to connect with other students and faculty members when you're studying online?
Well, that's a good question. I think that so many of our clubs and different interest groups have gone online during the pandemic. Of course, they already were there on social media and in different groups. And I think there's online study groups. I think there's virtual board game nights and different opportunities to connect there. There's also sometimes hubs if you're in a big international city or group. There's hubs with alumni from Waterloo or other current students who you might be able to connect with in person where you are living. So I would say, again, think about the special interest you are interested in, check out the club at Waterloo that has that opportunity, and then see whether they have virtual offerings. So, and then also connect with the students within your coursework and talk to your department coordinators. I think there's typically support for those online programs that you get some social time to connect with other students, potentially in that online program. So that's really going to come from your department in most cases. So you'd want to check with them to see whether they have any opportunities there. But I would say there probably still is offerings for a lot of our special clubs and groups on campus, that there would be virtual offerings for different interests. So I would just check those out, looking at the different individual club pages. You'll probably find groups on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat. There's probably a lot of social media offerings and with more information there.
Thank you. So this is a question for Siva. What advice do you have from your own academic career? Like, is there any advice that you can share for the students?
Okay, nice question. Yes, I would say, have fun, work smart. You don't need to work hard, but work smart, but have a solid plan and work for it, right? And work on a team. Make every use your university, every facility the university has to offer. It's, when I say facility, it's not just the classroom and the instructor. Make use of every facility when it comes to laboratory or training, meeting with other students. Make full use of the institution. Right.
Thank you. Jen, what are some common characteristics of high achieving students? You're muted, Jen.
No, it wouldn't be a webinar if someone knew that at one point. the common characteristics I see with high-performing students is typically that they do their very best to find the answers to the questions they have on their own. And because we have a lot of online resources and supports available for students, in many cases, those students can work independently to find those solutions, but they're also not afraid to ask questions, to reach out if they need help. So it's sort of a balance of being independent and using the resources and tools available to you, but also feeling confident enough to, raise your hand when there's a question in class, participate in the groups that you're in, and also if you need help or are very confused about something, to reach out to a person to answer that question if you can't find the resource yourself. And I would say high-performing students also have their goals in mind and probably have a very deliberate schedule or plan of attack for their courses and their research work. So that might be to-do lists, that might be using an online tool. It can look different for different students, but I think a really high-performing student will always know what needs to be done that day, that week, that month. They have a really structured understanding of what's coming up, which really helps them to not be overwhelmed when you might have 4 assignments due in 1 week, or a lot of different activities happening at the same time. They plan ahead and know that they maybe need to work ahead in one course so that they have time to work on another course later on if some of the deadlines are conflicting. So I think that, yeah, those are 2 characteristics that I would see in high-performing students.
Thank you.
I would also add that, that the high achieving students are also risk takers. They don't always choose the easiest path to get there they want to be when it comes to course selection or research topic selections. I think that they are linked to each other, risk taking and high achievement.
Thank you, Siva.
Yeah, I think just to add to, I think those students might try to take a course that they're not sure if they have the background to succeed in. They might push themselves, which doesn't always work out in every case, but it's that confidence and self-assurance to push themselves to really try to see what they can achieve or what they can learn. So I think just being open to learning and pushing yourself is part of that as well. Thanks, Siva.
Thank you. Well, with those comments, we've reached the end of our questions. So I would like to thank everyone for joining us this morning. Thank you, Amanda, Siva, and Jen. And just a reminder that this webinar has been recorded and we will be posting it live on our website. We're sending out an email and you can come back and watch it, and we'll be sending out a survey. So we would encourage you to fill it out, please, and provide your comments. Thank you very much and have a very nice day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.